Hello everyone and welcome to my Soap Twist 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The air in the Forrester mansion was thick with anxiety, a crushing weight that hung on every word and glance. Luna stood still in the vast living room, her pulse thumping so hard she thought it would drown out the echoes of Bridget's voice, which were still ringing in her ears. The DNA test results had just been released, and the reality they contained was like a jagged blade, piercing through the fragile threads of trust that had kept her world together. She couldn't stand to look at anyone, not Bill, whose face had hardened into a mask of horror, or Katie, whose eyes were wide with amazement as she stood by the door, grasping the frame as if it were the only thing holding her up. Bridget, the ever-composed doctor, clutched the results page with calm hands, but a profound expression of grief. Luna's chest constricted, her breathing became short, and she turned away without saying anything. The shiny marble floors blurred beneath her feet as she rushed, her vision obscured by tears she refused to spill. The truth was unbearable. She was not who she thought she was. The DNA test, intended to answer a small query about her origins, had instead revealed her complete identity. Luna Nozawa, a brilliant and ambitious intern at Forrester Creations, was not the daughter of the family she knew. The results revealed a pedigree she couldn't understand, one that connected her to mysteries buried deep inside the Spencer and Logan families. She didn't know all the details. Bridget had only started to explain before Luna's instincts took over, but she knew enough. Her life, her identity, was a lie. The evening in Los Angeles was warm, with a bruised purple sky that echoed the agony in Luna's spirit. She stumbled down the mansion's driveway, her heels seizing on the gravel and her thoughts racing. How can this be happening? She came to Forrester Creations looking for a future, a chance to show herself in the competitive world of fashion. She had worked relentlessly, earning the respect of her co-workers, and even catching the attention of Bill Spencer, whose gruff demeanor belied a surprising kindness. Katie Logan had also been kind, providing mentorship and a sharp wit that made Luna feel like she belonged. And Bridget, who was always professional, had been the one to walk her through the medical side of the internship, never hinting at the devastation she would cause with a single test. Luna's feet led her to a little park a few blocks away, a peaceful respite from the city's bustle. She sank into a bench, her hands trembling as she buried her face into them. The world felt like it was whirling too fast, and she was slipping off the edge. She remembered her mother, who had raised her and told her stories of a simple existence far distant from the splendor of the Forrestos and Spencers. Did her mother know? Had she lied for years? The thought was like a knife in Luna's stomach, twisting with each memory of her childhood. Every bedtime story, hug, and promise of love. Back at the mansion, Bill Spencer stood still, his jaw clenched so hard it hurt. He was caught off guard by the DNA findings. He had always taken pleasure in his instincts, his ability to read people and circumstances. But now this? This was a betrayal of everything he believed he knew. Luna, the young woman he had grown to adore for her persistence and talent, was tied to him in a way he couldn't quite understand. The tests suggested a familial connection, which Bridget was still piecing together, but the consequences were enormous. Was Luna his daughter? A cousin? A niece? The uncertainty gnawed at him, and for the first time in years, Bill felt helpless. Katie, still beside the door, was dealing with her own problems. She had seen Luna's face crumble and seen her flee without a second thought, and the sight had sparked something deep inside her. Katie understood grief. She had witnessed betrayals, heartbreak, and the looming shadow of the Spencer family's convoluted past. However, Luna's pain was raw and unguarded, reminding Katie of her own younger self, caught in the crossfire of secrets and lies. She wanted to hurry after Luna, bring her back, and assure her that she was not alone, but her feet wouldn't move. The weight of her personal history with Bill, the Logans, and the never-ending drama of their world kept her in place. Bridget, meanwhile, was kicking herself. She had been trained as a doctor to deliver difficult realities, but nothing could have prepared her for this. The DNA test had been a normal favor for Luna, who had become interested in her origins after a casual talk about family trees. Bridget never anticipated it would lead to this, a revelation that might upend not only Luna's life, but also the delicate balance of their intertwined families. She examined the paper in her hands, the cold, clinical figures that had upended everything. She wanted to explain and clarify, but Luna had left, and the room felt empty as a result. Luna sat on the park bench, her head filled with questions. She remembered Bill, his strong presence softened by moments of unexpected tenderness. She remembered how he had complimented her designs and told her she had a future in the field. Was that genuine, or was it influenced by whatever relationship the DNA test revealed? Luna had always admired Katie's tenacity and ability to negotiate the Spencer and Logan families' upheaval with grace. Would Katie see her differently now? Would she perceive Luna as a threat, a problem, or, worst, a reminder of past mistakes? And Bridget, how could she have been so cool and detached when she dropped a bombshell that devastated Luna's life? The night became darker, and Luna's tears eventually fell, silent and hot against her cheeks. She felt unmoored, like a ship led adrift without an anchor. Her once clear identity had become a riddle with missing pieces. She reflected on the life she had made at Forrester Creations, the ambitions she had nurtured. Will they still be hers to claim, or will this revelation take them away? She was terrified of having to face Bill, Katie, and Bridget again. She couldn't take their sympathy, questions, or the inevitable scrutiny that would follow. Back at the estate, Bill eventually broke his silence. "We need to find her," he replied, his voice gruff and emotional. Katie nodded, her determination tightening. She'd seen too many people injured by secrets, and she wasn't going to leave Luna to deal with this alone. Bridget, ever realistic, recommended contacting Luna's phone, but it went directly to voicemail. The three of them exchanged eyes, and a silent consensus emerged. They had to return Luna, not only to the mansion but to the truth, whatever it was. Luna, unconscious of their anxiety, up and resumed walking, her steps aimless. The city lights blurred through her tears, and she felt a piercing pain of loneliness that took her breath away. She remembered her mother, the woman who had always been there for her. The thought that her mother knew the truth, but kept it secret, was a gaping wound that refused to heal. Luna wanted to contact her and demand answers, but the fear of what she could discover kept her hand frozen. Hours passed, and Luna found herself outside a little cafe, its warm brightness contrasting sharply with the chilly knot in her chest. She slipped inside, buying a coffee she didn't mean to drink, simply to have an excuse to sit and contemplate. The barista, a kind-eyed woman, observed Luna's red-rimmed eyes and gave a soft smile, which Luna could not return. She sat at a corner booth, staring at the steam rising from her cup, and allowed her mind to wander. Bill, Katie, and Bridget had separated to seek for her. Bill drove across the city, his eyes scanning every pathway and shadow. Katie looked into the areas Luna frequented, Forrester Creations, the local library, and the park where she was presently sitting. Bridget called hospitals and clinics, her medical instincts kicking in, although she hoped they wouldn't be needed. Each of them bore their own burden of shame. Bill questioned whether he had been too detached, too intent on his empire, to understand the truth about Luna. Katie questioned whether she had been too preoccupied with her own problems to notice Luna's struggles. Bridget berated herself for failing to anticipate the consequences of the test results. As dawn broke and the sky turned pink and gold, Luna made a decision. She couldn't run indefinitely. The reality, however painful, was hers to confront. She took out her phone, ignoring the number of missed calls, and texted Katie, "I'm at the cafe on 5th. I'm fine, but I need time." She wasn't sure if she was ready to hear the whole story, but she knew she couldn't keep avoiding it. Katie came first, her expression a mix of relief and concern. She sat across from Luna, saying nothing at first, but maintaining a silent presence. Bill and Bridget arrived shortly after, and the four of them sat in the cafe, the weight of the unspoken truth hanging over them. Luna saw them, Bill, with his guarded intensity, Katie, with her strong compassion, and Bridget, with her calm strength, and felt a glimmer of hope. Whatever the DNA test indicated, these folks were concerned enough to find her. Perhaps that was enough to begin rebuilding. The talk that followed was slow, full of pauses and half-truths. Bridget revealed what she knew. The DNA indicated a connection to the Spencer family, potentially through a distant relative, but further testing was required to confirm. Bill said that he didn't know what it meant yet, but he told Luna that he would support her. Katie reached for Luna's hand, gripping her gently in a silent promise to help her get through this. Luna listened, her heart sad but not breaking. She didn't have all of the answers, but she did have something else, a complicated family that was unwilling to let her go. As they exited the cafe, the sun had fully risen. Luna felt the first stirrings of resilience. The truth had devastated her, but not destroyed her. She'd take it piece by piece, with Bill, Katie, and Bridget by her side. The road ahead was uncertain, but Luna felt confident that she could walk it for the first time since she raced. Luna fled immediately when Bridget delivered the DNA test findings. The words had hardly left Bridget's lips when Luna's heart broke into bits that she would never be able to put back together. The sterile aroma of the medical lab, along with the oppressive silence that followed, and the hum of the fluorescent lights overhead, appeared to echo inside her skull. She didn't want to hear another word, not from Bridget's cautious, regretful tone or the astonished stillness that enveloped Bill and Katie. All she could feel was the crushing weight of the truth. The truth. Bill Spencer was her father. Her legs propelled her down the tiny passage before her thoughts caught up. Nurses looked up as she passed, their faces blurred. The tile floor spread out before her, a river of milky white beneath her feet, and she could hear her own heartbeat beating in her ears. She pushed through the hospital doors into the cold Los Angeles air. The night pushed down on her skin like cold steel. She could not breathe. Everything she knew, every tiny bit of her identity, had shattered. Bridget stood stopped in the lab, holding the envelope in her palm. She felt she was ready to announce the results. She'd done it 100 times before for other families and complicated storylines, but this one was different. She had known Luna since she was a toddler, and she had seen her mature into a young woman full of grace and insecurity, always looking for a place to belong. Bridget's throat clenched as she stared at Bill, who stood motionless and speechless, as if struck by a train. Katie stood behind him, her lips twitching and her hand still half raised, as if she was ready to grasp for Luna before bolting. For a long time, no one spoke. The silence was awful. Bridget. Bill's voice was scratchy and low. Are you absolutely certain? Bridget swallowed hard. Yes. I took the test 3 times. There is no misunderstanding. Katie turned to face Bill, and the sadness in her eyes matched his own perplexity. She knew about his history, about the reckless actions that had created their convoluted lives, but she never expected this. Not Luna, the gentle, sweet child who had been like a niece to her for years. The realization wrenched inside her chest till she could hardly stand. Bill ran his hand through his hair, his voice faintly audible. She gazed at me as though I were a stranger. Katie, she hates me now. She took a step toward him before stopping. She is in shock, Bill. You can't expect her to understand right now, she added, although she wasn't sure she believed her own words. The truth was too heavy and terrible. Luna had grown up believing that her father was a faceless guy whom her mother refused to discuss. She had now discovered that he was someone she had known for years without comprehending the connection between them. Outside, Luna staggered into the parking lot, her vision hazy with tears. Her car keys rattled in her hands. She had no idea where she was going. All she knew was that she needed to get away. The city lights blurred as she drove, and her thoughts replayed every conversation she'd ever had with Bill. The dinners when he'd smiled at her, the guidance he'd provided, the laughing they'd shared, all of it suddenly felt like a betrayal. She tightened her grasp on the driving wheel, turning her knuckles white. She pulled over near the coast, her favorite spot, where the waves smashed fiercely on the shore. The air smelt like salt and misery. She got out and proceeded toward the lake, sinking her shoes into the damp sand. She remembered her mother's secrets, falsehoods, and the deep grief that always lingered behind her eyes. Why didn't she tell her? Why had she let Luna to grow up feeling unwanted and wondering why she wasn't enough? The thought caused her to sob more, and the sound was swallowed by the wind. Back at the hospital, Bridget gathered the papers and drew a hesitant breath. She shouldn't be alone right now, she explained. Someone has to find her. Bill was already making his way to the door. Katie grabbed his arm and said, "I'll go." "Bill, give her room. She's afraid." "I can't just abandon her out there," he replied, his voice harsh. "She is my daughter, Katie. I can't let her think she's alone." Katie glanced at him, her heartache growing. She recognized the look in his eyes. Guilt, the need to repair what was damaged. However, certain issues were difficult to resolve. "Then let me come with you," she murmured softly. "She recognizes me. Maybe it will help." They walked away together, the silence dense with recollections of their own shattered past. The drive seemed forever, with the city looming about them like a maze of remorse. Bridget watched them go from the hospital window, her hands quivering. She said a silent prayer for Luna's safety. When Bill and Katie discovered Luna, she was resting on a large rock overlooking the lake, her hair blowing in the wind. She did not turn when she heard their footsteps on the gravel. The waves screamed louder, and for a time, they all stood there, a fractured family united by truth and suffering. "Luna," Bill said gently. His voice was kind, but it conveyed years of unsaid emotion. She did not move. "Did you know?" Her words were hardly audible, swept away by the wind. Bill moved a step closer. "No. I swear that I didn't. If I had known." She turned, her cheeks smeared with tears. "If you had known what? Would you have told me? Would you have helped me feel less like a foreigner in my own life?" Her voice trembled as she shook her head. "You've been there the entire time, Bill." Katie's heart ached at the sight of her. "You spoke to me like a mentor, not a parent." She took a hesitant step forwards. "Luna, nobody intended for this to happen. What is life just about?" Luna cut her off, her fury visible through her tears. "Have you kept another secret? Have you caused harm to someone else? I have no idea who I am anymore." Bill's eyes welled up with emotions, which he couldn't hold back. "You are my daughter." Luna gave a bitter laugh. "Don't say that like it fixes anything." The waves pounded relentlessly and uncaringly behind them. The world did not come to a halt in response to their anguish. Katie placed a touch on Bill's arm, telling him to remain calm and allow Luna to experience everything she needed to feel. But every word Luna spoke seemed like a razor digging further into his heart. He had spent years attempting to be a better man, to undo the harm his decisions had caused. The past had returned to haunt him, this time in the guise of a daughter who refused to interact with him. Bridget called later that night to check in. She could hear the pain in Bill's voice even across the phone. "She's staying by the ocean," he said. "She doesn't want to come home." "Give her time," Bridget remarked quietly. "She is digesting something that will change everything. But she'll return when she's ready." Bill waited in his car by the beach, long after Luna had walked away. Katie sat next him, laying her head against the window. They didn't talk for a long time. Katie finally muttered, "You have always desired a daughter. I recall you talking about it when I was tiny. You mentioned you wanted to experience the world through a daughter's eyes." Bill nodded, his throat tightening. "And now I got one who hates me." "She doesn't hate you," Katie remarked gently. "She is hurt. There is a difference," but Luna believed it didn't exist. The days that followed were hazy. She remained with a friend and ignored calls and messages. Bill wrote her letters, real, handwritten letters, about how he never knew and how he wished things had been different. She could not force herself to open them. Every time she saw his name, the sorrow returned. Bridget also attempted to reach out, but Luna refused to acknowledge her. She blamed Bridget for being the messenger, although knowing deep down that Bridget was simply doing her job. It wasn't fair, but nothing about this seemed fair anymore. Katie, meantime, found herself in an unusual situation. She was aching for Luna, Bill, and herself. She had spent years erecting barriers around her heart in response to what had happened between them. Watching him so broken, she felt the walls crumble again. They spent nights talking about Luna, how to help her heal, and how to show her that she was not unloved. The chats triggered old emotions, including memories of love and sadness that had never totally faded. Weeks have passed. Luna returned to her mother's house, still quiet and aloof. Her mother sought to apologize and explain why she had kept the secret for so long. "I wanted to protect you," she said through tears. "Bill was powerful and unpredictable. I wasn't sure what he would do if he found out." Luna gazed at her. "You did not protect me. You just left me alone with questions I didn't know how to ask." One night, Luna drove back to the shore, where Bill had found her the first time. When she spotted his car parked outside, she nearly turned around. But something in her heart urged her to stay. Bill sat on the hood, looking out into the horizon. When he spotted her, he got up slowly. "I didn't think you'd come," he said. "I almost didn't," Luna acknowledged. They stood in silence for a long, with the sound of the waves filling the spaces between them. Finally, she said, "I'm not sure how to do this. I'm not sure how to be your daughter." Bill's voice quivered. "I do not know how to be your father, but I want to try if you'll let me." Tears welled up in her eyes once more, but this time they weren't from anger. They were caused by tiredness and a desire to quit feeling pain. "It's not going to be easy," she muttered. "I know," Bill replied softly, "but I will be here. Every day." Katie watched from a distance, standing near her car. She had come to make sure Luna was safe, but as she saw them together, something changed inside her. Maybe, she reasoned, healing did not occur all at once. Perhaps it occurred in moments like this, silent, broken, but genuine.